Tá bom? Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite aos internautas que nos acompanham neste programa Nano Alerta. Hoje, no seu número 72. Fazemos este programa dedicado ao público não especialista, porque é este público que paga as pesquisas sobre nanotecnologia realizadas no Brasil. Também fazemos este programa porque é aqui que nós podemos discutir os impactos da nanotecnologia na sociedade, no meio ambiente, na economia, na ética, no direito, coisa que não são discutidas aonde se faz nanotecnologia no Brasil. Por fim, fazemos este programa porque acreditamos que ser livre é ser bem informado e a divulgação científica contribui, colabora para o aprofundamento da democracia e da cidadania no Brasil. Conforme tínhamos anunciado, hoje estamos conectados com a COLETTE BOS, diretamente da Holanda, que vai nos contribuir com o nosso programa, falando sobre as articulações entre a Sociedade do Envelhecimento, a Sociedade da Terceira Idade e as nanotecnologias. Primeiro ela vai se apresentar, depois vai fazer a sua apresentação e aí nós vamos debater o tema que ela está estudando para a tese de doutorado, que pretende acabar logo mais ainda em 2015. Ok, Colette, could you please make a self-presentation?
Yes. Hello, I am Colette Bos, and I work at Utrecht University as a PhD researcher. And I work in a nanotechnology project, a national nanotechnology program, where I try to study how societal goals are articulated in nanotechnology. So yeah, I'll tell you more about my subject when I start my presentation. So I think for now that's probably enough introduction.
Okay. We put the first slide in the screen. Is in the screen.
Perfect. So I work in the National Nanotechnology Program in the Netherlands, and I'll tell you more about that in a second as well. And I work on this project together with my supervisors Harry van Lente and Alexander Feijnen. And as I said, we try to study how societal challenges are articulated with the nanotechnology projects. Could you go to the next slide?
Yes.
this is a bit the background and the starting point. So the reason why we want to study how societal challenges are articulated in a technological program is because there's often a lot more promises. Are you ready at the second slide or not?
No, is the second slide is in the screen.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So there are a lot of promises of what science could deliver for society. So, for example, with the nanotechnology, there are big promises what nanotechnology could bring. So, if you see this quote, it says that nanotechnology is considered to be the main technology for the 21st century, and it will provide a major contribution to the resolution of several global problems. So they're very big promises, but it's very hard to see what then exactly will be contributed, and also how these big ideas, so big goals like sustainability or resolving the aging society, how they are specified into actually working on a research project. So that's really what I try to see. I try to see how do researchers connect their research to these societal goals. Could you go to the next slide?
Okay, in the screen.
Thank you. So this is a bit how I conceptualize the science system landscape. So these societal goals, like for example sustainability or the aging society or responsible innovation, are used in different arenas of the science system. So, for example, they are first used by policymakers to try and make scientists more societally do more societally relevant research. But then they are also used again by, for example, the boards of research programs, who then say, okay, you have to do this and this, so they make it into requirements to see, okay, if you do this, then it is sustainable, and if you don't do this, this isn't sustainable, for example. And then also in the research teams, you see that you have particular researchers who say, okay, I really am working on a societal challenge, while others are much more doubtful about that. So I try to see how these societal goals are conceptualized, articulated, that's what I mean by articulated, how they are used in different contexts, and how they also translated from one side to the other. Next slide, please.
Yes.
Okay. And here you see the NanoNext program. So it's a really big program, and it consists of all the Dutch universities and a lot of companies. And so there are different themes in the program in which the researchers work. And also here you already see that there are themes like the vertical bars are more societal themes like energy, food, clean water, and medicine, while the horizontal themes are more thematic on scientific fields, so things like sensors or materials. And what I did for this topic, so the aging society topic, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, is that I interviewed a lot of researchers, but also most of the people who are in the board or who were involved in making the policies for setting up this program. So I tried to see, okay, what was their initial idea of focusing this research on societal goals? And then I tried to see, okay, how did this work out with the researchers? And also I looked at a lot of documents, research articles, background information, and research policies, of course, to see how these societal goals were articulated there. Could you go to slide 5?
Yes.
Thank you. So here I'll first start off a bit more with the previous research of mine. So first I looked more in research teams, and I tried to see how sustainability was articulated in nanotechnology programs. And what I saw here is that I made the framework of a funnel of articulation. And by a funnel, I mean, this as the funnel means in English, it's going from very broad to very specific. So, for example, if you could go to the next slide, to slide 6.
Yes.
Okay. So, for example, in sustainability, what you often see is that it, for example, gets connected to solar panels. So this is an example. But with solar panels, that connection has been made so many times that you don't need all the steps in between anymore. So, for example, if you would have to explain why a solar panel is good for sustainability, you would have to talk about global warming and about CO2 emissions and about renewable energy. So you would have to make a lot of steps, a lot of explaining to say why a solar panel is sustainable. But because this link has been made so many times before, now you don't really have to do that anymore. So it's pretty acceptable to just leave the space in between out. So to just say a solar panel is sustainable. And this is what I call in that research a fixed funnel. So a funnel that is used consistently and that also gives, therefore, a lot of legitimacy to the people who use it. So people that use a funnel that has been used many times before can more easily say, okay, yes, I am working on this societal goal, while other people who are maybe also working on stuff that might be very good for sustainability, but that don't have this good of a story, or that hasn't been used that many times, struggle more and have to put more effort into articulating why their research is good for society. So, if you could go to the next slide.
Yes.
This is a very short slide. It's just to show that after that I did the same type of research with them for three big societal goals. So to see also how they work and how they can sometimes kind of clash with each other, because nowadays researchers are usually not confronted with one societal goal, but with many societal goals. Think, for example, of the European Horizon 2020 program, where there are 6 grand societal challenges. So, and sometimes it seems that even though they are all goals that seem very good when they are put into policy, so for example, it is good to be sustainable, but it is also good to commercialize your research. While these two can clash when you think about what it means in a specific situation. Because, for example, if you really want to make a solar panel as good as possible, or do you want to also make it cheap to make it commercially viable? So these are things that, although they sound very good in policy, sometimes when they, in practice, they aren't always compatible. So that's why I studied more at once. And if you could go to the next slide, slide 8, please.
Yes. Yes.
And on slide 8, I show, there I look more at how different words were translated through these different arenas. So not so much at what does the particular goal in question mean here, but more also in the policy making process, what role do the words or do the societal goals play there? And next slide, slide 9.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where I'm ending up now, and what I want to talk about for the rest of the presentation is that I've now last year looked at the aging society as a goal. So, and I'll explain a bit more about that now. So the aging society has also been conceptualized a lot as a goal for science and technology. So, we have changing demographics. We have a lot of more elderly people due to the baby boom generation, and also because the birth rates are consistently lower than earlier years, and people live a lot longer due to better medical care. So there are a lot of reasons why an aging society could possibly pose problems, for example, economic problems or healthcare problems or social problems. And it is interesting to see, but of course the aging society shouldn't just cause problems probably, but it is interesting to see how in science policy it is often used as a concept of something that science and technology can help. So it is conceptualized as a problem very often. And yeah, I want to study that and want to see how and why the solutions that were being expected in science policy, how they were transferred in the working of researchers. So if you could go to slide 10.
Okay.
Thank you. So what I just talked about earlier about the funnels, this is something that I based on the earlier paper, but that I'm now building up further. So here you see three features of why something would be more of a fixed funnel. So if the content is used consistently and all the time, so for example, with the solar panels, every time the same reasoning was made why a solar panel would be sustainable. And but for other technologies, for example, so for sensors, for example, there were a lot of different reasonings why a sensor would be sustainable. So, and if it is constantly the same kind of reasoning, then I say it's more fixed. And this also has to do with the force, so whether the legitimacy of the societal goal is transferred to the specification. So, because the reasoning has been made so many times, it is legitimate to say that a solar panel is good. Because sustainability is good and a solar panel is connected to sustainability, a solar panel is good. That is pretty much what we see often happening in that reasoning. And that's often also what people assume about that. And then the activities kind of are on the same level. So because you assume that the connection is there and that it's obvious, then you can say, okay, because I'm working on this research and because it contributes to solar panels, I can say that my research automatically also contributes to sustainability. So these were the things that I found for sustainability, and now I want to see whether these also fit or how these can be conceptualized for the Asian society. Next slide, please. Slide 11.
Yes.
Okay. So I first looked at the research agendas and the contributors to the research agendas. Is everything correct?
Yes, it's 11.
I just heard some noise, so okay. So aging is frequently problematized. It's used often in the strategic research agenda, and for example, it is mainly put as a problem. So a significant strain on the healthcare system, and we need breakthrough solutions. And for example, also we need better nutrition because that would help for preventive healthcare. So as I said, it is often seen as a problem. Slide 12, please.
Yes.
Okay.
11. 12.
Yes, 12. And the contributors, so the people who make the research policies, think that societal goals are very important. So they say that if you don't mention these goals, everyone will just forget about them. Or I absolutely think that working on solving the grand societal challenges is of vital importance for the scientific enterprise. But on the other hand, slide 13. Yes.
It's okay.
So, but they don't really agree on whether something is changing. So some say it just won't work to say to a researcher that you have to conduct useful research for society. They say it will always be more the scientific topics that will drive the researcher to start to see new topics and never really a societal problem. While other researchers say, other societal, other policymakers say, well, I think it does play a very large role. I just think that scientists don't always realize how much their research projects and programs have already changed over the last 10 years. So sometimes people say it's just buzzwords, but something definitely is changing. So it's probably not just buzzwords, but more than that. Slide 14.
Yes.
And in the themes of the NanoNext NL program, the nanomedicine program was mentioned most in relation to the aging society, and the food program was once mentioned, which also agrees with how it was put in the policy documents, and no other themes were mentioned. So mostly, yeah, these quotes are from the nanomedicine theme. So that's also why then later I investigated the nanomedicine theme and the food program, the food theme. Slide 15.
Yes.
So this is a short addition. So no specific projects were mentioned, but this is also probably to do with that it's a very large program, and that the research board doesn't always know exactly what is going on in all the projects. But on the other hand, it does show that even though they think that, for example, in the nanomedicine project is very important to address the problems of the aging society, they don't really know specifically how it would contribute. Next slide, slide 16.
Yes.
So so then I looked in two themes, two groups, and I interviewed people within the nanomedicine theme. And here it was very clear that they said that societal goals for research are good, but that they also saw very strongly that medical research was good in itself. So that they always said that it's logical that my area of research is good for people. It is always good to find new drugs for new diseases, or to work on medicine is inherently good. That was pretty much, they didn't feel like they had to reflect on that very much. Slide 17.
Yes.
So, for example, this is a bit of a different funnel that I saw there, and this is an example. Of course, there are many more funnels possible. But what you saw is that, so this is, I'm not sure if you can read it, but here they try to connect research on microbubbles with the aging society. And what usually happened is that they said, okay, it is good, my research can help for cancer research. So there are more people that are older that also have more cancer, so then it is also good for the aging society. So it was constantly the same kind of funnel, the same kind of narrowing down that could also just as easily contribute to healthcare in general. So what they all said, okay, I'm not really sure whether my research contributes to the aging society specifically, but since elderly people are usually have more diseases, it will also be good for that. So that's the reason that was used mostly. Slide 18.
Yes.
And so as I said already, so if you see the force of the funnel, they saw medical research as good in itself. So they also kind of thought that my questions about why their research would be good for society were a bit stupid. And so there you really see that they were very sure that their research was legitimate, and they didn't really feel like they had to reflect on that. Slide 19.
Yes.
And then the activities of the funnel. So here you also see that it's kind of a fixed funnel, because they were very sure that as the last sentence says, as the number of old people increases, the more important it is to diagnose a tumor early. So there's a very direct link made with, if I diagnose a tumor early, then that helps for the aging society. Next slide, slide 20.
Yes.
So for the food group, the results were a bit different. So here they said, well, a bit the same as the other researchers. Societal goals are good, but change is kind of slow. So this quote is an example where he said, well, okay, maybe otherwise I would have only studied metal properties, and now I am making a sensor because I was thinking about the more societal relevance. So it's moving, but it's not moving that fast. Slide 21.
Yes.
Here people were very skeptical about whether or not the aging society could be connected with research on food. So some people did make the connection, and then it was mostly connected with a healthy lifestyle. So elderly people who need a healthy lifestyle, and their healthy food or better food can help there. Slide 22.
Yes.
So, but as I said, so a lot of people were pretty skeptical. So they said things like, I'm sure some people can come up with a nice story around this, but they also said it was pretty far-fetched to connect their research to the topic of the aging society. And they, well, a lot of people also didn't. They said, well, I really cannot come up with a story around this. I think this is, well, ridiculous, or I don't think they should have put this in the policy document. Slide 23.
Yes.
So yeah, that's also what I just said. So they didn't think that their research connected directly to the aging society. They didn't think that by pursuing their research activities, they were helping the aging society, and they also didn't totally understand why it was then put in the policy documents. Slide 24.
Yes.
So I think that what we've seen from more of the aging society part is that we just fall back on existing legitimations. So there's a bit of debatable usefulness of steering in this way, because well, they are pretty much just doing the research that they've always been doing, but then calling it research for the aging society, especially in the case of the medical research. And for the food research, they are also doing the same kind of research, but they aren't even very sure yet if they are contributing to the aging society. So yeah, and that also relates to the second point. So no really conscious decision has been made about, okay, what does it mean to solve the aging society, or to address problems of the aging society with science and technology? How could it contribute, or what could it do? It is so it sometimes looks at, maybe for policymakers, it's science, giving funding to science and technology is also maybe a bit of an easy solution for a difficult problem, because the aging society is a difficult societal problem, and by giving funding to science and technology subjects, well, you are at least doing something, or you are working in a way to try and tackle that as a policymaker. And for researchers, it's maybe a new buzzword that gives legitimation. But well, as the last point said, I think it's interesting to see, and that policymakers should be aware that when they are steering or trying to steer researchers with these societal goals, they are not just steering to the aging society. They are mainly steering to the scientific areas that have these strong stories, that have the fixed funnels. So I think policymakers should be aware of what kind of stories there are, and well, maybe try to see that not one scientific field should be monopolizing a society, so not directly funding for the aging society goes directly to medical research. So yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, we could discuss a bit more on slide 25, but that's more an overall of my whole PhD topic conclusion. So maybe that's not too relevant for today. So maybe I'll just leave it at this.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. I have many questions.
Okay.
I don't want to change your line of research for your PhD thesis, huh?
Yes.
This is not my way, huh? My way is only to debate with you about some concepts and some things that you put in your presentation.
Yeah, sure.
One is about the sustainability. Huh?
Yes.
Maybe for people that live here in Brazil or in South America, the sustainability of the European Union or the Netherlands is the unsustainability of the people from Brazil or from South America.
Yes.
What do you think about this?
Yes, I think that is totally true, and I think that well, that is also what I try to see in my work. So these societal goals, or I sometimes call them big words, they are things, they are concepts that are used very much for legitimacy, and so but then because people don't really but they are only legitimate in very specific situations. So, for example, exactly as you say, what is considered sustainable in the European case might not be considered sustainable at all in Brazil or wherever. So, and I think it's actually very interesting that these kind of concepts, because they sound so good, sometimes stop people from questioning whether they really are good. So, what they really mean, and whether in that situation they really are good. So that's also why I'm fascinated by these concepts and see why they are so often accepted without much explanation, for example.
Okay. Um, the second question is about the responsible innovation.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is uh, the word or the theoretical field that is in the model now.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is if it is possible we have responsible innovation in a capitalism system or capitalism society. Because innovation for arms, for war,
Yes.
he can name this about responsible innovation
Mm-hmm.
or irresponsible innovation. And we know that the importance of the innovation for military things.
Yes.
Maybe after 10 years, 15 years, our society can use that innovation for military things.
Mm-hmm.
But military things, he knows what. One example is about the drones.
Mm-hmm.
What make the drones for Afghanistan, Iraq, or another societies. So responsible innovation is possible to this theory, this framework. It's possible to use this to qualify the aging society and the development of science and technology for this aging society.
Um, okay, let me see if I got the question right. Um, I think um, I think you are totally right, and the examples that you gave about how difficult it is to qualify things as responsible or not are very difficult. And I can give another example of a person who was making a device which was a very technical nanotechnology device, but then you also had to use a very powerful laser to make the device. So he wasn't totally sure about whether he should sell that to everybody, you know, because he was trying to sell the machines now. So he was very unsure about, because, you know, if you would use it for the right things, for really making nanotechnology, it would be fine. But he wasn't sure whether people who would buy his device would also not use the laser for very bad things, because it was just a very powerful laser. So I totally agree that it's very difficult to, in advance, see what is responsible, what is not. And but the reason why I study it in conjunction with, or in comparison with the other society goals, is because I believe that these are all the sort of goals which are put into policy documents very often. So they are put into science and technology documents very often, without really reflecting on what it means in specific situations. So that's the same for responsible innovation, and that's also the same for the Asian society, and that's also the same for sustainability. So I'm not saying that they are the same, they are very different, but they are often used by policy in a similar manner. And that's why I want to see, okay, what then are the differences, and why are they then used in the same way in policy documents so often? So I hope this clarifies a bit.
Okay. The other question is about the nanomedicine.
Mm-hmm.
And the with nanomedicine, you can become more legitimate the nanotechnology by the nanomedicine way. If you develop more nanomedicine, you have to you contribute to put the nanotechnology with more legitimation in their development. This is one case. But if you compare with the nanofoods, I think more or less is the opposite side. It's very difficult. The development of the nanofoods contribute with the to legitimate more the nanotechnology. So I think in our case, before you have to put some link between the development of nanotechnology and nanomedicine, if you want to build more legitimation for the nanotechnology. So, and for the aging society, the nanomedicine is very important, yes. So I think maybe the aging society can contribute also with the process of the legitimation of the nanotechnology, because we will need more nanomedicine. What do you think about?
I totally agree, and I think, well, of course, I didn't, I mean, in the paper there's more background and stuff, but I do agree with you that maybe I should focus more on how nanomedicine and medicine in general, well, as I said, people working in medicine often have this idea that it creates, that is legitimate, that's always legitimate to work on medical things. So if you work on nanomedicine, it does, I think, create more legitimacy for nanotechnology as a whole. While, as you said, in nanofood, it is the opposite, because around nanotechnology in food, there has been much controversy about whether people would want that, and also what you saw in the Dutch nanotechnology program, where the food companies that were part of it, they did want to be part of it because of the science, but they initially didn't really want to put they didn't want to put their name on the website. They didn't want anything, you know, they wanted to do the science, but they didn't want to show that they were doing something with nanotechnology, because they were scared for public negative public opinions. So yeah, I think that that's true, and I think I should elaborate more on that and show more of how specific fields of nanotechnology create more legitimacy for nanotechnology as a whole, or don't.
Yes.
For nanotechnology. Yes, thank you.
The other question is about how is the planning of the aging society and the nanotechnology development. I can tell you that here in Brazil, there is no planning about this relationship and aging society and the development of nanotechnology. There is no planning. The planning is development of nanotechnology. There is no connection with the aging society specifically. The planning is to produce more knowledge about the knowledge for the production of new goals or new products, but not products that can be used by the people that is most older. So you see this connection, this planning in the Europe?
Yes, well, I think it is a very European concept in that way, and well, as I just said, as I showed in the second slide, I think the Horizon 2020 program is a European-wide scientific planning, really, and there the European Commission really said that science should focus more on society relevant topics. So, as for example, sustainability, and as for example, the aging society. And that meant that, well, also already before, but over the last 10 years, for example, in Europe, there has been much more focus on these societal goals as goals for science. So, but sometimes it is interesting to see how these then, yeah, kind of clash with the more traditional or older goals, as you said, as just to have a planning for nanotechnology to make more new products, or to, well, just to have science for the sake of science because maybe it will deliver more products or more know-how in the future. So it has been, they are really trying to make science work on societal topics. And yeah, this is one way in which this is done. Although I must say, and that's also what I kind of show with my project, that in this particular program, the aging society doesn't really seem to be thought through a lot. So it's not really, I don't think that people took a lot of time to think, okay, how could we contribute to this, to the aging society? It's more that it probably sounded very nice to put it in a policy. And then, well, what happened with it afterwards wasn't really considered that much. So, but yes, there is a lot more focus in Europe on societal goals for technology and science.
Okay, and in the European 2020, you have many priorities inside this.
Yes.
You have dates to compare what is the money that this program put in this area of the aging society and the nanotechnology. You can compare with the others?
With previous dates, you mean?
Yeah.
Years? Well, I think it's hard because at some point it's of course it went very gradual, but one starting point, for example, for really the societal challenges in Europe was in 2007. Then the Lund Declaration was made, and that was so there was a really big conference in Lund in Sweden in 2007, and there they well, kind of made this policy document which said that Europe should focus on the grand societal challenges of the future. And there they discussed and they elaborated a lot of these kind of societal goals. So that's
Depois
pretty much where it
põe
started, and
o
now
slide
it is ending
24.
up in the Horizon 2020. So the Horizon 2020 program really started last year, and I have compared the European frameworks over the years starting in around 1990, and you do see that these societal goals start becoming gradually more important. So it's not that you see that there's all of a sudden they start focusing on societal goals, but it does move from while in the 1990s there was much more, okay, we're going to put research on, for example, on chemistry or on physics or these kinds of much more disciplinary areas, and later it changed to, okay, we're going to put money on sustainability, and whatever discipline can fit under that can get funding from that. So it changed, the funding structures did change over the years, but it's hard to say if there's exactly one cutoff point, so it went pretty gradually.
Okay, I would like to discuss your slide 24.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, that's okay. Yeah, I just put it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The prime is resist fallback on existing legitimation. This is the problem for me, because my research with Brazilian people that work with nanotechnology, one thing that the people tell for us is that outside of nanotechnology, we doesn't have solution for the Brazil, for the country. With this, my argumentation is this: people want more money to have more research. So the discourse for these people is that the Brazil outside of the nanotechnology will be so bad. There is no solution outside of the nanotechnology.
Yeah.
What is the research in your consideration, your research about this kind of interpretation of the importance of the nanotechnology?
Okay. Yes. No. Well, I agree with you on the one hand that what you say, that people just want more money, or they will say anything to keep on continuing their research. But I also think that if you look at least in my case, at the societal goals, that they are something is changing, even though people might not be realizing it totally. But if you have to think every time about why um, not just why you just want to pursue studying this and this nanoparticle, but also why this is useful or why this is interesting. That does mean that you are reflecting on it constantly, and it does also mean that you might not choose might choose more useful or more society relevant topics instead of choosing just fundamental science topics. But yeah, it is difficult, and I think that I don't think that in the Netherlands nanotechnology is considered um, that much of a hype that the people who work in nanotechnology really want to keep on calling it nanotechnology to get money. Although you did see that, for example, in this project, so the project where I'm working, there's also a lot of research that could better be called microtechnology, for example, because it just really isn't on the nano level. But that also just went along with this nanotechnology program because nanotechnology sounded better, and so they were able to get funding if they called it nanotechnology. So yeah, I think that nanotechnology is a buzzword in a sense that people people aren't using it to get research funding. But on the other hand, I do think that because it's such a broad term, you really do see that researchers from different disciplines are able to work together. So it's not chemistry, physics, or biology, or these kind of things anymore, but it's really much more on the kind of topics that you have. So people are working together. So I think that is a plus side of it being such a broad board.
When you told about the multidisciplinary, the human science is inside, or the social science is inside of this multidisciplinarity?
Yes.
Yeah? Because here in Brazil, no. Here in Brazil, the conception is that the multidisciplinarity in the development of nanotechnology is the physicist, that is the biggest, the most power is the physicist, and the chemical, the something the engineers, something the medicine. Yeah, there is no human science in these conceptions.
Yes, I think that, of course, as a social scientist, I think that there should be interdisciplinary work with the social sciences, but I do agree that it's very difficult. And in the project where I work, it has been tried to do that. So the social scientists, but well, not just social, also more philosophers and people who are doing more research on the laws around nanotechnology. We are part of the program, but we are a small part, of course. So it's hard to, in the beginning there was, the policymakers wanted the social scientists to interact with all the other researchers. But for example, there are 300 technical PhDs and 10 social science PhDs. So it's not very realistic that we would have to interact with all of those other PhDs. So just the ratio is a bit off. But on the other hand, they did try in our program to make courses for all the PhDs to have a course about more these societal social science topics. So they had to go to a 2-day course about the societal aspects of their thesis, of their research, and they had to write something about it in their final PhD dissertation. So, and that meant that they also kind of needed us as social researchers to talk about and to see, okay, what can I write about these more, societal relevance topics. So it's the first step. It's not everything yet, but they try to make some kind of interdisciplinarity with social science. But I agree that it could and should definitely be more.
Yeah. The second question is about the slide 24, is the second topic. No policy decision is made about what the aging society means for science and technology. This is, my question is, what is, in your opinion, the meaning of the science and the technology for the aging society?
Well, the thing is that I don't necessarily have or want to give my opinion on what is good science for the aging society. What I mean by this bullet point is that it is really put into it seems like it's put into the policy documents as something that is can legitimize science to say, okay, we have this problem of the aging society. Well, we don't really know what to do about it, but we can at least fund some research to do it that way. So that's what I mean as that it's seen as a solution for a difficult problem. But yeah, and what I also mean is that the policymakers don't really seem to know what, well, the question that you just asked me, they don't seem to know what they think should science and technology bring for the Asian society. So it's very open, and that means that the fields that have this strong legitimation, like the medical field, like the nanomedicine field, can pretty much take up all the legitimacy of the Asian society, because they already have this connection and they don't have to put extra effort into it. So yeah, it's not the policymakers that decide what the Asian society means in science and technology, but it's the strong stories that, well, they don't decide it, but through the strong stories it is decided who is doing useful research for the Asian society.
Okay, my last question, okay,
Yes.
is the last topic of the 24. Mm-hmm. If science and technology choose what the solution for the Asian society are, this also defines the problem. Yes, I agree with this phrase. And I would like to ask you if the problem was very clear in test documents from the European Union, the documents that you make your research.
Yeah. No, not so much. And I think that's also a bit the point, that in the documents, in the policy documents, the Asian society is often, it is summed up as a lot of problems. So it's summed up as economic problems, that we won't have enough pension funds. It is summed up as healthcare problems, that we need to think about other ways to care for sick people. But it's not, so it's in the policy documents, it's always very broad. But what I'm trying to show here is that if you say that science and technology get to choose what solutions to research, so in this case we see that it is mostly medical research, that means that you redefine the Asian society as sick people, as people where medical research could help. So because every time you research one topic under this big societal goal, that means that other topics aren't being researched, and it means that it is reinforced that medical research is important for the Asian society. So what I really want to say here is that by leaving these problems so broad in policy documents, that means that certain scientific fields can really get reinforced in saying, okay, we just need to do medical research for the Asian society, and I think we should do much broader and also very different research for the Asian society, and not just medical research. So that's mainly what I mean by that point.
Okay, Colette, thank you so much for your contribution with your program. Mm-hmm. And I hope you will have a good finish for your PhD thesis.
Thank you.
And when you finish, you can send me an email. He can see another date for your present here in our program, your thesis. Okay?
Okay, that's good.
If you this program, you good this kind of program to this debate, we can have another debate about your thesis.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.